Minimalists.
How can you declutter family relationships? That might be one of the toughest relationships to try and declutter because, family, you can't choose who your family is, and those are the people who are, proximity-wise are closest to you, especially if you have a family that gets together a lot. Like, you're always going to be around family members in that type of situation. For me, I think about when I first started, just kind of, I didn't have any demands as much as just kind of setting up boundaries with different family members. And I've talked about this before with a family member who, I was listening to this particular family member and another family member having a conversation, and a family member said to the other, "I'm so glad that we're related, because no matter what I do, you have to love me." and it hit me that a lot of my family members, they don't use family to strengthen the bond or to strengthen the love. They use it as
a tether.
Yeah, as a tether. They use it as like leverage to be like, I can treat you however I want,
right? Because
you have to love me,
right? And maybe I do choose to love you, but you're mistaking love with support or encouragement or or spending. I can love you from a distance. I can love you and never see you again, but I can still love you. And so in a weird way, that family member was right in the sense that, I will continue to love you, but that doesn't mean I'll continue to support you. I'll continue to tolerate your bad behavior.
Right.
So I'm not going to continue that because I don't have to. I don't have to do that in order to love you. You're misunderstanding love. You think that love means a check mark on the board. You think that love is a trophy or an achievement or an obligation. No. Those things are fine. By the way, love can compel me to do any of those things.
Yeah.
But you can't force me to just because we're family members.
Right. So this family member, basically was talking about, why don't we stay more in touch? Why don't we see each other more often? You don't go out of your way to hang out with me. And I really just made this statement of like, to be honest, I have friends who treat me better than you treat me. And they were like, well, that's kind of BS because we're family and family's a strong bond. And, family, you're supposed to be closer to your family than anyone else. I said, right. I was like, so wouldn't you assume that my family would treat me better than the way my friends treat me instead of using it as this obligatory love?
Yes.
And like the light bulb that went off in this family member's head was like, it really. And I'll tell you what, from that conversation on, they have never acted the way that, it really changed the way that they treated me.
And what's fascinating about that is you didn't try to change him.
No.
And in a way, you weren't even convincing him. What you were simply doing is you were stating a truth because you knew you weren't going to go, I'm going to change you or change your mind, but you simply stated a truth, and that provided that floodlight of awareness.
Yeah.
That we were talking about. In fact, back to the romantic relationship that became toxic for you, what you had there is all of a sudden, off of the drugs, you had this floodlight of awareness that constantly your at tension in that relationship because you were forced to pay attention to these things that were making you miserable.
Yeah.
And of course that's going to create tension in your body, in your mind, in your relationship, in your life. But as soon as that floodlight of awareness, you sort of feel that tension drop in a way.
Yeah.
Now, when that tension drops, you realize like, oh, I have to create some distance between me and this family member. Basically, she was basically your family, right?
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, I'll give you a pithy answer, choose your family wisely. And what I mean by that is just because you share DNA with someone doesn't mean you have to share time with someone. Tweet that podcast, Sean.
Boom.
And what I'm really saying there is you have no obligations. We did it's one of my favorite podcast episodes we did. Go back and listen to the obligations podcast that we did and realize that all of our obligations are self-inflicted obligations.
Yeah.
And that includes our obligation to our family. And maybe even, of course, we're going to have certain responsibilities. If we birth a child, we're going to have an obligation for that child's safety. That's not what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about any other adults in our life, post-pubescent people in our life, the obligations are our own. The baggage that we're carrying, we get to decide what's in that baggage.
Totally.
And so how do you declutter your family relationships? It's not about getting rid of the person. It's about getting rid of the obligations, letting go. Stop clinging to the expectations that have been thrust upon you either by them or that you've invented on your own.
Yeah. One thing that I have observed with my stepdad is he is a very angry. Anytime he feels like a family member is disrespecting him, I mean, he becomes an evil person that, I mean, I've never seen anyone act as evil as this man. But what's interesting is that when he's out and about with people, he comes across as kind of a nice guy.
Okay.
And there are, like my mom's mom, he can have a conversation with her and that evil will never come out. But it's only with the people that he's closest to is where that evil comes out. And I don't know what that is about. A piece of me looks at it and thinks, well, if he's evil to you, he actually really loves you because he has this love, which for some reason he attaches an expectation to, like, oh, I love you, so therefore you should love me. And if we love each other, we will respect one another. And if someone disrespects him, well, now his feelings are hurt, and then the evil comes out.
Yes. So, but that's obviously not love.
No, obviously not. But
right. And so what he's doing is he's conflating that. In fact, there's a section in Love People Use Things where I talk about it's odd, but the people that we behave the worst to are the people who are closest to us quite often.
Why is that?
Well, part of that has to do, there are several studies on
like
this.
A comfort thing with it, I guess.
Part of it has to do with comfort, but part of it also has to do with those are the people that we've assigned the ability to change our own mood.
Yeah.
It's my fault anytime I do that. So if I've given you the power, I've given away my freedom basically because I'm giving you the power to make me mad, angry, upset, sad. If I've given you the power to make me sad, that's on me. But then when you make me sad, I lash out at you because I gave you that power. Who's the person that I need to be frustrated with? Myself, for giving away my own freedom.
Right.
Giving you that power. Did you enjoy this video? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalists private podcast available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists today. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.